George, I just finished watching How Stella Got Her Groove Back and discovered something awesome.
What's that, Joe?
Once men hit middle age, we ain't shit.
Is that so?
According to this goddamn movie, women can stay hot at 40. Once a dude hits that age, he's as gross as hell.
I don't think that was the point of the film.
The hell it wasn't. Every man in his 20s is fit as fuck, but once he hits 40, men are gross. And imagine how I feel. I'm in my 50s. Evidently, I should be dead already.
I think the movie is just doing a reverse of what movies usually do. You know, where the woman is half the guy's age, but when you see men do it in movies, nobody agonizes over the age difference for 2 hours.
Oh, sure, the movie is making up for decades of old guys getting with young girls in films like Making a Picture where an older woman gets a younger guy. I understand what's happening. I just fucking resent it.
I mean, Harold and Maude aside, I guess you can know how older women feel.
Yeah, I do. And let me tell you, I didn't really want to know. Well, does this still work? The podcast looks at old movies and asks, does this still work? I'm Joe Dixon.
And I'm George Romeka. And today we're discussing how Stella got her groove back from 1998 and some historical context. First, podcasty stuff. You can reach us at ttswpod@gmail.com, on Facebook, Letterboxd, and on our YouTube channel. Joe is on Blue Sky at joedixon.bsky.social. Please tell your friends about us, especially if they're as hot as Taye Diggs was in his 20s, because Jesus Christ, that man can get it. And leave 5-star ratings everywhere. You can pick what we watch and get extra per episode content by funding us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/dtswpod. Now, Joe, take us back to 1998.
And that's the way it was.
This film takes place primarily in California, but a good chunk of the time we're in Jamaica. So, we're going to check out both places for this look back to 1998. Let's start with the Caribbean island nation. For both locations, our sources are going to be California newspapers. This is from the Record Searchlight. Headline, George.
Jamaica targets tourist harassment. Fines for repeat offenders who badger tourists to purchase or barter for drugs, sex, and merchandise were boosted to about $4,100 from $41.
1.9 million people visited Jamaica in 1998, according to this article, but tourism officials were concerned that recent acts of harassment against guests could harm the industry. In fact, the Prime Minister called harassment the single biggest problem facing that business. I will quote, "Tourism is by far Jamaica's biggest and most important industry, accounting for 45% of its $595.1 million foreign exchange, for 13.7% of its $6.2 billion gross domestic product, and for 1 in every 4 jobs. Those percentages are among the highest in the Caribbean, a region that in turn is among the most heavily dependent on tourism in the world." End quote. The article doesn't say if the fines have been successful, but the folks in charge of tourism seem happy enough with them. New York is also a tourist town, but we also have other sources of revenue. It's never great when places rely solely on the kindness and cash of strangers. But of course, if that's bringing in money, tourists are going to become marks for shakedowns of some sort. George, do you find it curious that both this movie and Cocktail can go to Jamaica but somehow avoid the existence of beggars?
I don't find it curious. I find it callous.
Okay.
I have a thing about fiction, right? If you have fiction that's set in reality, try to include some of the reality in it. And the reality is that there's a lot of poverty in the Caribbean, and every movie that features the Caribbean avoids showing any of the poverty. And I think that's erasing people from existence.
Yeah, it's like a brochure. It's like, It just looks fantastic. And it's like no downside to going there. It's amazing. And I had so many Cocktail flashbacks watching this movie. Stella has a high-paying job, and obviously there are plenty of black women who are well off in reality. However, on average, how true was that? These stats from 1980 are brought to us by the San Francisco Examiner, and the headline is White Wealth, Black Wealth. And it says middle-class blacks typically earn less than their white counterparts and have significantly fewer assets. And it's about, a $30,000 difference between the two?
Yeah, white people's net worth is about $30,000 more than black people, on average.
You think that's true of us? Because you technically make more than me, but because I've had different outcomes in my life, I've actually have more money than you, which is weird. I have
I have a shit ton of debt, and so maybe like it depends on all those variables. But I think writ large probably hasn't got. I mean, it's probably gotten a little bit better since then, but not like solved.
Yeah, there's definitely still a gap, though probably not as large as it used to be, I believe. Anyway, let's move on. And finally, 1998 saw the emergence of black romance novels. I'm getting this info from the Modesto Bee, who quoted Essence Magazine, which says black women account for 30% of the $885 million spent annually on romance novels, buying 177 million paperbacks a year.
Black women make up how much of the population?
1998, I don't know. Black people in general were 15% of the population.
15%. So black women are about 8% of the population, making up for 30% of the romance novel sales. Black men, step up your game.
What do you think the numbers are better anywhere else? Most women.
I mean, men, step up your game. But, like, I don't know. Something about somebody who's even less of the like, what is it? Black women need to escape. I mean, black women need to do more escapism. Okay, I can just buy that on its face. Never mind.
Whoa, women in general like romance novels. Have you ever read a romance novel yourself?
No.
I'm trying to think, and I don't think I have myself either.
I mean, I did read the Song of Solomon in the Bible.
It's not really a romance novel.
So I read about, genitals the size of donkeys.
I know the story.
That kind of turned me off the genre.
Oh, okay. And as most people probably know, How Stella Got Her Groove Back was a novel before it became a movie.
Okay, I could buy that.
And I've read Terry McMillan, who we're going to get into later when we do the credits. I read some of her books. I don't know if she's still writing these days, but they were enjoyable. So I guess I did. I mean, if you consider her a romance novelist, then I have read a romance novel. I've read one of hers. Okay, George, tell us about How Stella Got Her Groove Back.
Okay. This was directed by Kevin Rodney Sullivan, written by Terry McMillan, we just mentioned, who also wrote Waiting for Exhale, which we've seen for the show.
And I read.
Mm-hmm. And this is also written by Ron Bass, also wrote The Joy Luck Club, which we saw for the show.
Yeah, we saw for the show. Interesting, Ron Bass is a white man, but for some reason he's involved in all these non-white products.
I mean, that could speak one of two ways about him. Either he is just sort of riding on that, or he's one of the good ones.
Good ones. I'm interested that it's a white man, not a white woman.
Yeah, right? IMDb says Stella is a highly successful 40-something San Francisco stockbroker who is persuaded by her colorful New York girlfriend Delilah to take a well-deserved first-class vacation to Jamaica. That describes the beginning of the movie.
It does describe the beginning of the movie and not the rest of it. It is interesting that by today's standards, you could easily read girlfriend as girlfriend. It's just they're not more specific.
Yeah. Amazon says a 40-ish San Francisco stockbroker, Angela Bassett, has a fling with a 20-year-old Tay Diggs while vacationing in Jamaica. I think that actually sells their relationship short a little bit.
And that's also half the plot.
Yeah.
Neither one captures what actually happens completely in this movie.
Nope. We open to serif typeface credits over a black screen for a full 2 minutes, listening to Free Again as performed by Soul to Soul featuring Karen Wheeler and Jazzy B. This transitions to our protagonist, Stella Payne, in Marin County, California, running through the woods in a blue and white tracksuit.
Looking fantastic.
Fuck yes.
Stella Payne is played by Angela Bassett. For the show, we've seen her in Waiting to Exhale, What's Love Got to Do with It, Malcolm X, and Boys in the Hood. And we both saw her in Black Panther Forever, Avengers Endgame. And I, on my own, I heard her voice in Soul. That's a Disney movie. And I also saw her in Mission Impossible Fallout, Chirac, Betty and Coretta, that's a TV movie, Passion Fish, Contact, and City of Hope.
And I've seen her in Kindergarten Cop, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the 2005 one, and heard her in Meet the Robinsons. Stella is a 40-year-old knockout and a brilliant stockbroker.
No, Sydney, GKOs are Russian bonds. They're guaranteeing 65% interest on your money. The government's never defaulted on one. It's safe, it's a lock, it's 65% on your money. So if you want in for $10 million, do it.
I mean, I can't imagine having to memorize lines like that.
The fun thing about movies like this is they can say any old bullshit and you won't know if it's wrong and right or not.
Right? Exactly.
It's like what they do for medical shows. They say all this stuff like, is that accurate? Who knows? Did anything she say was that actually English? And you're saying, who knows? Maybe that stock thing exists and it's for 10 mil and it never defaulted and everything. I have no idea.
She was speaking in money tongues. Mm-hmm. She's so competent that even when she's in on her day off, her boss, Isaac, just can't seem to get by without her. He's accidentally blown off a big client and needs Stella to get her back. Stella is on it. Isaac is played by Victor Garber. For the show, we've seen him in Milk and Jeffrey.
And I've seen him in Argo, The Town, and Laughter on the 23rd Floor.
And I've also seen him in Sleepless in Seattle, The First Wives Club, Titanic, and Legally Blonde. After work, Stella joins her sisters at a spa. Angela, a pregnant housewife, wants to set Stella up with one of her husband's golf buddies, a judge. Vanessa, an EMT, thinks a judge would be too boring. Stella joins them, and they continue bantering until they start splashing water at each other.
Angela is played by Suzanne Douglas, and for the show we see her in School of Rock. And unfortunately, she is the only one who has passed away in this movie, and she died, ironically enough, of cancer. Vanessa is played by Regina King. For the show, we've seen her in Jerry Maguire, Friday, and Boys in the Hood. And I've seen her in The Harder They Fall, If Bill Street Could Talk, and the Watchmen TV series, the most recent is one on HBO.
Then we meet Stella's son, Quincy Payne, as she drops him off at the airport to go stay with his dad for 2 weeks. Quincy is about 12 years old and implores his mother to have some fun while he's gone. And Quincy Payne is played by Michael J. Pagan.
What did you say when it's like Pagan?
I don't know. Makes for fun times, I guess. In the evening, Stella is enjoying some wine and going through old pictures when a travel commercial for Jamaica comes on the TV. She becomes enraptured by it and starts to hallucinate herself into the scenes. The judge calls, and her altered mood makes her seem way more receptive to his advances than she actually is. She calls her best and oldest friend in New York to suggest they'd take a trip to Jamaica. Then she leaves another message to belay that first message.
There, she thinks better of it. What am I doing? I can't go to Jamaica. Which, of course, we know she totally can.
Yeah, because in the morning, she gets a call back from that friend, Delilah Abraham, a window dresser for Macy's, who insists that they take that trip together.
Delilah Abraham is played by Whoopi Goldberg. For the show, we've seen her in Ghost and The Color Purple. And we both saw her in Star Trek Generations, Star Trek The Next Generation, the TV show, of course, In and Out, and Star Trek Nemesis. And I've seen her in Top 5, Boys on the Side, The Player, House Party 2, and Soap Dish.
And I've seen her in Girl Interrupted.
As I was putting the credits there, I was looking at Soap Dish, and I was going, God, there's a film that nobody's going to understand today. Because it's a parody about soap operas, which are like, nobody watches anymore. There's like, 2 or 3 soap operas on TV now.
You'll understand it.
I would get it, but I'm old.
Delilah arrives first, and before Stella can set foot on the island, she scoped out 2 washed-up ex-NFL players.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Oh, yes, I did.
I did not come all the way down here to turn into a slut.
I did. A big old whole slut if I can.
Look, all I want to do is run, read, relax, and roll over.
You can roll over and still,
Be a slut.
be a slut, yeah.
I use the word slut with affection.
Yes, indeed. You and I, if we could, we would both be sluts.
Right?
God knows I would.
While the ladies unpack, they compliment each other's looks before Delilah lets on that she's been feeling like just a little bit of not too much sick, and she's been trying to take ginseng to feel better. Yet that'll turn out to be cancer and she'll die from it.
Wow. Spoiler alert, man.
Now they're on the beach, stretching. Then they're running, sort of. Really, it's just Stella running, and she runs far. When she decides to, she stops for breakfast. A 20-year-old not rapper asks to join her, amid her mutterings of their age difference.
Not rapper is very cool, because she jokingly says, "You're not a rapper, are you?"
They make small talk, and we hear Stella's inner monologue as she starts to really like this guy, this Winston Shakespeare, who is now our second protagonist.
Winston Shakespeare is played by Taye Diggs, and this is a cinematic debut. And for the podcast, we see him in Rent and Brown Sugar, and we both seen him in Chicago. And for On My Own, I see him in The Best Man, the 1999 movie, The Wood and Go. Although in none of those films do I see nearly as much of Taye Diggs as I did in this picture. I saw a whole lot of Taye here.
We saw a lot of Taye Diggs in this picture. I was not complaining.
Well, which did you like more? Angela Bassett's body or Taye Diggs' body? You couldn't possibly choose.
I mean, I saw more of Taye Diggs' body.
Okay.
So, like, I took what I could get. He just got a degree in biology, looking for a job as a chef.
Which makes sense, sure.
Sure.
I got a degree in biology, you get a job as a chef. Absolutely.
I mean, definitely lends well to, like, baking and brewing.
Cutting things up, sure, I guess.
When Stella is done, she leaves, but he secures from her a loose promise of maybe going to a pajama party tonight.
That sounds like fun. I wonder if we could ever do a pajama party.
We've done a pajama party.
We have been to a pajama. We have, actually. Right, I forgot. I completely forgot about that. That's right, we had.
Later, Stella finds Delilah chilling with those two ex-ball players, Jack and Buddy. Stella would rather risk skin cancer than have Buddy touch her.
Jack is played by Richard Lawson. For the podcast, we've seen him in Dirty Harry, and I, on my own, saw him in Wag the Dog. Buddy is played by Barry Shabaka Henley, and for the podcast, we've seen him in What's Love Got to Do With It, which also had Angela Bassett in it. And I've seen him in Dolomite Is My Name, Bullworth, Devil in a Blue Dress, and Life. I'm saying not the cereal or the game.
That evening, Stella waffles a bit, but ultimately decides to go to a pajama party. Winston is delighted to see her. They dance a bit, and Delilah notices her there, and the real young guy she's with. I know I've had much worse times watching movies for this podcast than getting to watch Taye Diggs and Angela Bassett groove together. At some point, the hostess implores everyone to get crazy, and they all start taking their clothes off. Stella and Winston make a break for it, but have to stop and watch Buddy do a striptease before they can escape.
We did not do that at our pajama party.
We did not, and I was less enthused about that.
I didn't like Buddy's body?
Not as much as I like Taye Diggs' body.
Okay. See, that's an attack on the old. He has a regular middle-aged body, and you reject him for hot, tight Taye Diggs.
I'm rejecting my own middle-aged body and trying to turn it into one that's more like Taye Diggs. Delilah stops by the next day to get the deets on Winston and to set us up to have a conversation about age gaps.
It would be ridiculous. What in the world would I do with a 20-year-old kid?
Fuck him. Do the Humpty Hump. Do the Bumpty Bump. Fuck him. Yeah.
I'm old enough to be that boy's mama.
That boy wasn't looking at you like he was old enough to be his mother girl.
I mean, you alluded to it in the cold open, but there's a whole fucking history of cinematics where old guys get young girls, and not too many where the older women get the younger guy.
Yeah, although I forgot about Harold and Maude. That is,
I mean, that's an
whole other
extreme example.
Yeah, that's like really extreme.
The other example that I could think of is The Graduate.
Yes. Although he still ends up with the younger woman.
Still does end up with the younger one.
And he deserves neither. That's another story.
So I have it, I'm on the subreddits a lot, and one of them is polyamory R for R, which is like a personals ad for polyamory on Reddit. R for R is Redditor for Redditor. Mm-hmm. And somebody replied, messaged me about my thing and was really interested. And I'm like, okay, so how old are you? She was 26. And I'm like, that's a no-go. I'm sorry. My age range is my age plus or minus 10 years. I don't go outside of that because you could have gone to high school with my oldest child. And she's like, you wouldn't even make an exception? I'm like, and she sent a picture. I'm like, you are adorable, but no. I was really proud of myself for holding that boundary.
Very good.
So whatever we think, Delilah encourages Stella to pursue Winston. Later, Stella goes to the pool where Winston is hanging out and hops on in. Winston is again delighted to see her and joins her. She implores him to help her avoid an old guy trying to hit on her, and Winston makes his own intentions clear.
Boy, I'm old enough to be young.
Okay, why don't you just get it out of your system right now? Tell me 3 million times how old we both are. That way I won't have to hear it again for the rest of our lives. For the rest of the week.
Yeah. What makes you think you're gonna last a week?
I was just hoping.
The thing is, we are going to hear it again for the rest of this movie.
Yep, we sure the fuck are. Is Taye Diggs from Jamaica?
No, he's faking
okay, so he's doing an accent that whole time. Okay, yeah, because I'm like, Benny from Rent didn't have that fucking accent.
No. Taye Diggs is an actor, George. He's played characters.
That night, they playfully get into the mood and then have themselves some sex. In the afterglow, he talks about putting off going to med school. The next morning, he shows up bright and early to say he got a job as a chef on a boat and isn't going to be around much anymore, but he still wants to see her before she goes.
She does not like that.
No, she does not. Delilah encourages her to not let Winston slip away, so she leaves him a message at work and then heads back to California. Back at home, she's met by her sisters, Angela to give her shit about dating a 20-year-old, and Vanessa to ask for money and let her know that she dinged her car.
That whole scene there was very strange. It was like they're waiting and hunt for her or something. Like, let's just out on our sister as soon as she gets... I just came from vacation. Why are you giving me shit already? Can I get home, please, into my house and relax before you start jumping all over me?
Right? Stella heads back into work only to find that her company has been merged and she's been fired. At home, she assures Quincy, and really Joe, because he's constantly in awe of how people in movies can afford to live the way they do.
That's true.
That she's got enough money stashed to live comfortably for a while.
One would imagine that, I assume she got that house in the divorce. I don't know what the husband does. They never established what his job is. We will see him later in the movie. But clearly, they did very well for themselves, because that is a huge house she's got there. And she's just her and a kid.
We know that she does have a mortgage. It's brought up twice.
Yes, that's true.
Later, Quincy is sweeping the driveway. Good fucking kid, right? And Stella is getting ready for a run when the phone rings. It's Winston, and Quincy watches his mom act like a schoolgirl with a crush on the phone. She says she's come to visit him, and he asks her to bring a list of things that'll make him fat if he's not careful.
Yeah, he wants a lot of chocolate for some reason.
Yeah, don't go there.
Oh, come on. What are you holding back for in this episode?
I don't know, but wherever it wasn't going to be good, but it would have been based on chocolate.
I know. I know what you think. I know exactly where you were going. Okay, move on.
Okay, that looks really nice, Joe. I wanted to snuggle him so hard. She brings Quincy and her niece Chantel, Vanessa's daughter, to Jamaica. Winston instantly gets on their good side by playing Marco Polo in the pool. Because that's how you do it.
Sure. And Chantel is played by Cicely Johnson.
Yep. There's some sexy time and talking about the future time before Stella takes a phone call from Delilah, who is in the hospital, though Stella doesn't know that.
No.
The next day, Winston surprised Stella with a visit to his parents, who do not approve of him dating somebody their age. Stella chastises him for his immature thinking that this was a good idea. And it's like the only time I can really agree with her on that. Like, you should have gotten her consent before you did that. Yeah, but it's also a very, for me, movie fight. They just needed to have a fight, and they just decided to push that in. Because I don't know if she would be that angry. Embarrassed, sure. But it just seemed like, that's immature. Because an older guy wouldn't have brought it to his parents as a surprise. Dudes do that. It's not like it has nothing to do with his age. No, I mean, I think surprising somebody with a thing is almost never the way to go. Oh, I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm simply saying it's not an age thing. Yeah. Older guys have done that shit. Oh, yeah. Okay. When she gets back, there's a message from a doctor telling her that she's listed as Delilah's next of kin and that she should come home fast. Winston reads her expression from the backyard and rushes in to be supportive. Stella rushes back to New York to spend time with Delilah. They rehash old memories of songs and lovers. As Delilah goes to sleep, they sing Row, Row, Row Your Boat together. Very sad. Yep. Then we cut to the funeral where Stella gives the closing remarks and watches as Winston enters late, but not too late. I did not see this movie originally in the theater. I thought the film was wrapping up at that point. We got, another 30 minutes to go? This movie did take for fucking ever. It was a little long. Every word from the novel must have made it into this movie. Outside the funeral, he tells her that he wanted to be there for her. He also tells her that he loves her, and he's going to be around for a while. So they go to a family barbecue at Angela's so that he can meet her family, including her ex-husband, Walter Payne. Walter Payne is played by James Pickens Jr., who we've seen on the podcast in Gridlock, and I've seen in 42 and Bullworth. Winston gets some advice from Walter about how to be a partner for Stella.
She can be as stubborn as all hell, but you know that by now, don't you?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir, I do.
She thinks she knows everything. She's always right. I hate to admit it, but she usually is. Just don't bow down to her, otherwise she'll treat you like a chump and she'll trade your ass in for a new model.
Well, then I promise you I won't.
Good, because she needs a man to stand up for himself. Did that work for you?
Hell no.
Nice little bonding scene.
Yeah, and I chuckled at that.
Yeah.
That night, he's brought home to stay with Stella and Quincy. Quincy gives him a tour of the place, including the garage/workshop where Stella used to design furniture. Quincy gives the almost obligatory "if you hurt my mom, I'm coming for you" speech.
Mm-hmm.
Later in the evening, Winston comforts Stella as she misses Delilah. The next evening, they go to see a comedy and run into Angela, her husband, and the judge with his own date who had just seen a grown-up drama movie. Angela is condescending about Winston's age. So Stella goes to Angela the next day to confront her sister about it.
Of all the scenes that could have been cut, I could have lived without that. Also, wow, the sister's like got, what is it, 1950s? She's got pearls on and she's well dressed. She's cooking dinner or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We see her cooking. Like, who dresses like this while just making a meal for the family or even for herself?
Right? Winston and Stella go out to dinner, and Winston tries to pay the bill, but Stella doesn't want him to because she knows he doesn't have that kind of money. Winston doesn't want to be treated like a child, and this almost breaks them up publicly.
Another fight that seemed unnecessary. Although I can understand him as like, yeah, I am living in your place and I am not working. I can see that I got to do something, make you really uncomfortable. Although,
yeah,
honestly, the size of that house, just do the cleaning and that should be good enough. She does have a maid for some reason, which I'm shocked.
Pin in the doing the cleaning because we're about to get to something.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
That night, they can't seem to sleep. Winston kneels beside her on the bed, and she apologizes. He asks her to follow him. He takes her to her workshop that he has cleaned, organized, and outfitted with a new table saw so that she can start making furniture.
How she missed that, I do not know.
Holy fucking gestures, Batman. And we can pull the cleaning pin out, because he did some of that.
That's true, yeah.
The next day, she gets called in about her old job. Isaac offers her a promotion and a raise because without her, nothing seems to work right. She turns them down.
Damn straight.
She goes home to Winston and frets about it for a while, thinking about how she is going to start her own brokerage firm from the ground up. Winston suggests that she sell the furniture that she makes. Then he produces a ring and asks her to marry him. She says her heart says yes, but she needs some time to think about it. A week goes by, mostly consisting of Stella running, before it's meet the parents' time at school or something. Stella ignores Winston the entire time, and he's upset about it. Quincy steps in for his mom, and now everyone is mad at everyone.
Yeah, have a bit of bickering right there in the parking lot.
Then Winston apologizes to Quincy, who asks that they all just go home. And then there's a scene where Stella gets into the shower with him that, I don't know, I rather enjoyed, because 20-year-old Kay Diggs is fucking beautiful. They have shower-to-bed sex.
You see mostly his backside. You don't see the front business.
The next day, Stella says they need to talk. So they lay in a hammock, and Winston says it's about time for him to go to med school. So he's leaving on a 10 p.m. flight because a clean break is easier. And it is. He's right. One of the things I keep telling people in the polyamory subreddit is breaking up earlier is always easier than breaking up later. It just gets harder the longer you're together and the more entangled you become.
Sure.
So when you realize it's not going to work, break it the fuck off. Don't ride it out for longer. Goodbyes are said when the cab comes to get him. And on the way to the airport, his cab gets stuck in weather-induced gridlock, and the radio tells us there's a whole nother way to the airport that's perfectly clear, getting ahead of us skeptics who would be wondering how the hell Stella got to the airport first to finally say yes. Because that's what happens. The end.
Yes. Woo! They really packed it in there. Again, it seemed unnecessary. They could have had the yes earlier rather than, oh, we break it up. Oh, you know what? I changed my mind. Let me rush to the airport. Which, again, shows this is a 1998 movie because today she couldn't do that.
Yeah, and I mean, is there a really good med school in Jamaica?
They do have them.
Okay.
I don't know how good they are, but they have played them. And because, a lot of Americans who don't necessarily do well here will go to Caribbean islands to get their medical degrees. There was a whole TV show about it, actually.
What she says from the escalator is, have you thought about Stanford?
Yeah, of course you can go to medical school in the country. Although,
yeah,
where he's going to still have to get a lot of loans. Well, his parents are well off. I guess
and they do want him to go to med school.
Yeah, so I guess they're going to pay for it.
Yep.
If they're not too mad about him banging in Angela Bassett.
I mean, and how can you be? It's Angela Bassett.
Well, the mother seemed pretty pissed when we last saw her.
She'll get over it.
All right. Anyway, that is the end. My friend, does it still work?
It was a slog. Like, it was hard to pay attention to this for a full 2 hours, but I can't say it didn't work. It was a solid romance story. And I couldn't get enough of Taye Diggs' body. I just
Okay. Well, other than that, yes, I agree with you. It still works. It is just a romance story. It's dated well.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't seem too old. I mean, I think the airport's probably the most dated thing about it. And the fact that nobody uses a cell phone, I don't think, do they? I don't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It works well enough.
Yeah.
For what it is. It's nothing special. It's fine. And you enjoyed Taye Diggs. If you want to see Taye Diggs' naked ass, this is the film for you.
Yes.
Taye Diggs in all his glory. All right, my friend, what's up next? Any other naked people? Oh, I like it when poor bad lieutenant gets naked. That you don't enjoy, but Taye Diggs you like.
Yeah, they're very different looking people, Joe. In very different roles, too.
Harvey Keitel constantly showing you his body. That you're not into. But Taye Diggs,
but he keeps he also keeps playing assholes.
He does. Hey, George, what's up next?
I don't know if there's any naked people in this. It's been a while since I saw it, but next week we'll be talking about The Last Detail from 1973.
I've also seen this a long time ago and don't remember if there's any naked people. I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
But I guess we'll both find out.
Yeah. I remember enjoying it when I saw it the first time.
I remember enjoying it too.
Yeah.
I guess that's it for this episode. I'm Joe Dixon. Thanks for listening.
And I'm George Romaka. Thanks for listening indeed, because if a podcast drops and there's nobody around to hear it, it's just another collection of ones and zeros that doesn't matter.
Now, I heard you was down here on the island looking for some real love. Now, if that rumor's true, I am here to put the P in paradise for you.
Boo!
Hey, that's my pickup line.
You've been listening to Does This Still Work? Produced by Joe Dixon and George Romaka. The hosts can be reached via social media, email, or the contact page at dtswpod.com. Be good to yourself and others, because that still works.
No, I'm not. Don't do that, George.
What?
I was going to try and do a Jamaican accent and then realized, don't do that, George. That's a bad idea.
Oh, now that you said it, go ahead, give it a shot.
No.
Dear breakup girl, my boss and I have this incredible chemistry between us. Dear breakup girl, help! My relationship of 15 years is on the rocks because his ex-wife is dying. I thought it said his wife. Because his ex-wife is dying of cancer. Dear breakup girl, here's my dilemma. I moved to a horrible place in the Midwest last year for the sake of Mr. Mediocre.